Welcome to Girlfriends Bible Study, a live Bible study with Connie and friends. Each week, Connie and her girlfriends engage in a lively conversation as they read and study Scripture. So grab a pen, your journal, and your best friend, and enjoy this enlightening Bible study.
Meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. Woohoo! Okay. Phew, I was having a moment trying to get this streaming live on Facebook, but I made it. And there is my beautiful sister. Hello, beautiful sister. All righty. It's so good to see you. You see, I'm here in my cabin. I am here in my cabin. So, welcome to Bible Study Live with Connie. And tonight we're talking about what happens when somebody calls you on your stuff. What happens? How do you respond, and how should you respond? And this has been, in today's times, any number of examples we could talk about from a modern day time. But I've been really thinking about this from the standpoint of even legalities and how it is in our culture, certainly in our country. And I don't know what it's like in every other country, but that whole, it's not just the innocent until proven guilty, which, whatever. I don't know that that's always true, but in terms of the onus being on somebody trying to prove the truth, like that, like lie about it, lie. If you get caught, lie, because you only have to go to jail if they can prove the truth. And how that's like looked at as normal and noble half the time, or they got one up on the system, they got away with, like that's looked at as cool or something. More importantly, it's looked at as normal, that's the way it should be. That, in putting, which I understand that in putting the onus on guilty, innocent until proven guilty, I get that. That is to protect people from being accused, wrongly accused. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Give them the benefit of the doubt. That's where it starts from. And I can understand that. But how it's morphed is, oh, wait, I'm innocent unless they can prove I'm guilty. Okay, so then I can lie. I can try to distort facts. I can try to, I can go to court and lie and say I wasn't there. I plead innocent. Even if you are guilty, this is what people do. And not just in court, you've seen the stories. You get caught cheating. What's your answer supposed to be? Wasn't me. Nope. No, it was, I don't, why? How could you even accuse me of such a, I thought we had a relationship. How could you even accuse me of such a thing? Deny. Unless they come up with some proof of, I walked in on you, you were right there, I saw, like, unless they can do that, the go-to is to deny. And that doesn't sit well with me. That doesn't sit well with me, even as I understand innocent until proven guilty. Even as I understand that part of it, and I get that part, what doesn't sit well with me is how that gets turned on its head. So unless they can prove I'm guilty, then I don't have to tell the truth. That's what it's not supposed to mean. And so I thought about it, and I thought about people who get mad when you call them on their stuff, but their stuff is their stuff, like it's real. If you have a problem, you're a thief, you're a kleptomaniac. Every time you go to somebody's house, you got something in your pocket or your purse. And then one day somebody says, oh yeah, you're not invited over tonight. What do you mean I'm not invited over? You steal from my house every time you come over. You can't come. I know you didn't just call me a thief. Really? Are you crazy in addition to being a thief? And typically they're not crazy. Their thing is just deny, unless you have proof. And I have a problem with that. So we're going to read several scriptures that deal with this particular issue. And there's a different way to handle it. There's a different way to handle it. There really is. And I know this may not be popular because people want to be able to stay all covered up in their wrongness. They just want to continue to be wrong. And I want to both have the cake and the icing and eat it too. So I want to hold on to this over here, but I also want to be wrong over here. And I don't want you to call me on my wrongness. In fact, if you call me on my wrongness, I'm offended. Oh my gosh, how dare you say that I do what I'm doing? Yeah, I have a problem with that. I seriously have a problem with that, is my point. And we're going to talk about it. I'm trying to figure out how to save one of my pages because I want to come back to it. So the first thing that we are going to look at is in 2 Samuel chapter 12. 2 Samuel chapter 12, verses 1 through 14. And I'll give you the backstory on this. So I've talked about this before in a Bible study. David had an affair with Bathsheba. Bathsheba, he goes out on his balcony or whatever it is and sees her sunbathing naked over there, taking some kind of bath, doing the thing over there naked. And he decides, I've got to have this woman. So he takes her, they have sex. She's married, he's married, but back then biblical, whatever, he's married, but he was married too. I need to point that out. They're both married, but she's married and she gets pregnant. Her husband, Uriah, is away at war, the war that King David had, authorized and sent him as one of the troops. So she comes back to David and she's like, so I'm pregnant. And of course it has to be his because he's having sex with her more than one time. And her husband's not even home. So Uriah comes home and King David tries to get him to sleep with her so that he can think it's his baby. But Uriah's not doing that. He's sleeping at the gates of the palace. He's like, no. I'm not going to go be with I am a man I'm a soldier. I'm supposed to be ready for war. I can't be over there getting soft with my wife. And so he doesn't go sleep with her. And he tries. I think David tried twice. When that didn't work, what David did was he told his general or whoever it was, you know what? When you get into the battle, send Uriah to the front and then everybody else step back, which was very clear, make sure he dies on the battle lines. And he did. And then David married Bathsheba and they had a child. And then he got in trouble. He was already in trouble when he did it. But then Nathan came and Nathan was like, bruh, I'm gonna have to uncover you right now. We're gonna have to read you right this moment. And this is how he does it. In 1 Samuel or 2 Samuel, did I say first before? I didn't mean first. 2 Samuel chapter 12, we're starting at verse 1. The Lord sent Nathan to David. When he came to him, he gives him a story. I love stories. So he gave him an analogy. He said, there were two men in a certain town, one rich and the other poor. The rich man had a very large number of sheep and cattle, but the poor man had nothing except one little ewe lamb he had bought. He raised it and it grew up with him and his children. It shared his food, drank from his cup, and even slept in his arms. It was like a daughter to him. Now a traveler came to the rich man, but the rich man refrained from taking one of his own sheep or cattle to prepare a meal for the traveler who had come to him. Instead, he took the ewe lamb that belonged to the poor man and prepped it for the one who had come to him. And then look at David. David burned with anger against the man and said to Nathan, as surely as the Lord lives, the man who did this deserves to die. He must pay for that lamb 4 times over because he did such a thing and had no pity. Then Nathan said to David, and they using exclamation marks, you are the man. He did the 2-finger point. You are the man. It was you. You did it. This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I anointed you king of Israel, and I delivered you from the hand of Saul. I gave your master's house to you and your master's wives into your arms. I gave you the house of Israel and Judah, And if all of this had been too little, I would have given you even more. Ooh, that would have just cut me to the core. And believe me, he and I have had this conversation. And he has said, I blessed you so much, Connie. And if all of that had been too little, I would have given you even more. Mm, mm, mm. Why did you despise the word of the Lord by doing what is evil in his eyes? You struck down Uriah the Hittite with the sword and took his wife to be your own. You killed him with the sword of the Ammonites. Now, therefore, the sword will never depart from your house, because you despised me and took the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your own. This is what the Lord says: out of your own household, I am going to bring calamity upon you. Before your very eyes, I will take your wives and give them to one who is close to you, and he will lie with your wives in broad daylight. Ooh, this hurts. You did it in secret, but I will do this thing in broad daylight before all Israel. Now, let's stop there. In modern day times, what would people say? What would their reaction be? I didn't tell him. I didn't do it. I didn't kill him. You got it wrong. I didn't do it. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. I am innocent until proven guilty. Until proven guilty. That's how most people would respond, right? You've been accused of murder. You've been accused of embezzlement. You've been accused of being unfaithful. You've been accused of being a thief. Me? Oh, But in verse 13, David said to Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord, period. I have sinned against the Lord. And it says, that's it. He didn't give any excuses. He didn't say, no, I didn't. He said that one sentence and stopped. But see, what had happened was, nope, she was sunbathing, naked. Come on now. No. I have sinned against the Lord, period. Period. Nathan replied, the Lord has taken away your sin. You are not going to die. But because by doing this, listen to this part. This was powerful to me. Because by doing this, you have made the enemies of the Lord show utter contempt. The son born to you will die. Because you call yourself a person of God, a Christian, a believer. You call yourself that, and yet you did this horrible thing. So for people who are not Christian, people who are against the Lord, people who who are against the Lord, who are enemies of the Lord, you have shown utter contempt for that you say to worship. That, man, which is why where you need to go is, I have sinned against the Lord, period. Say it, repent for it right then and there. Let that be that. Done. No excuses, nothing. And that's why when we read about David, even later, it says David was a man after God's own heart. He did lose a son. There were some repercussions for his actions. And then he blessed him with Solomon. He had, another child with Bathsheba. But because there are repercussions for actions, they could have been a lot worse. He could have done all that stuff that he said, your wife's going to be sleeping with in broad day. It could have been all of that. And it wasn't, thankfully. And he was still called a man after God's own heart, even after all of that, which is bizarre, right? We think, well, if I tell the truth, if they find out I'm not perfect, if they find out I did a bad thing, people won't respect me. They won't like me as much. I'll be condemned. But you know what? When you're honest, when you're transparent, it actually works the opposite. The fact that you can say, I screwed up. I messed up. What happened here? You did da 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 da. And I have done wrong. I did the wrong thing. I'm sorry. And just stop there. That's it. I'm sorry. I messed up. That's where we need to go. All right. Now we're going to look at John chapter 4. We have another example. Not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to set it up a little bit. John chapter 4, Jesus is talking with a Samaritan woman. And Samaria was like the seedy part of town. It was a hood and lots of, stuff going on in Samaria. People doing the things. And she was, let's call her a loose woman. She was promiscuous. And Jesus starts talking to her about water, the eternal life from a spring of water that wells up inside. And he meant himself. He was talking about himself. But if you look at verse 15, in John chapter 4, verse 15, here's what happens. The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water so that I won't get thirsty." Because he said, if you drink of this water I'm talking about, you will never thirst again. I wonder if that's where they got thirsty from. Thirsty? Anyway, so if you give me this water so that, sir, give me this water so that I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water. And he told her, "Go call your husband and come back." She said, "I have no husband." She replied. Jesus said to her, "You are right when you say you have no husband. The fact is, you have had 5 husbands, and the man you now have is not your husband. What you have just said is quite true." How would most people reply? "Oh, I know you did. I've had 5 husbands." And I don't know, because I'd have to really research this. What I've heard about this is when he says you've had 5 husbands, he's not talking about of her own. I can't go there. I don't know. But basically, whether she's been married 5 times or she's had five of somebody else's husbands, we don't know. What's clear is he just called her on her stuff. You've had 5 husbands, and the man you're with right now is not your husband. And here is the opportunity for her to go off or to say something different. You know what she says? "Sir," the woman said, "I can see that you are a prophet." That's what she said. She didn't deny it. Clearly, you got me right. You read me correctly. You must be a prophet. That's where she went. And then she talked about, our fathers worshiped on this mountain, but you Jews claim that the place where we must worship is in Jerusalem. So he talked to her about, where to worship and things like that. But the first part I noticed, and they talk about her as not being just, promiscuous, or they talk about her in terms of the relationship she had with Jesus. She had an opportunity to just be offended, being called on her stuff, and she didn't. She didn't choose to be offended. She chose to say, you're clearly a prophet. You're right. You're right. That's all she could say. But in our culture, you didn't see me with one of those 5 husbands. I'm going to deny. I'm going to be innocent until you prove I'm guilty. There's nothing noble in that when you're really guilty. There is nothing noble in pretending to be innocent when you are guilty. There's nothing noble about that. Nothing. Nothing. Just saying. Now, in Matthew 27 and in Mark 14, there are 2 separate accounts of when they started hurling these accusations at Jesus. And look how he responds in Matthew 27. I'm going to go there first. In verses 11 through 14. It says, "Meanwhile, Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him," so he asked him an honest question, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "Yes, it is as you say," Jesus replied. He just answered honestly, "Yes, I am the king of the Jews." When he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, they start hurling lies at him. He gave no answer when they started accusing him. Then Pilate asked him, "Don't you hear the testimony they are bringing against you?" But Jesus made no reply. not even to a single charge, to the great amazement of the governor. They talk about it in another way in Mark 14. Mark 14, verse 55. The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for evidence against Jesus so that they could put him to death, but they did not find any. Many testified falsely against him, but their statements did not agree because they were lying, because that's what lies do. They don't agree. Sometimes they do agree and they're still lies. Then some stood up and gave this false testimony against him. We heard him say, I will destroy this man-made temple, and in 3 days will build another not made by man. Yet even then, their testimony did not agree. Then the high priest stood up before them and asked Jesus, are you not going to answer? What is this testimony that these men are bringing against you? But Jesus remained silent and gave no answer. Again, the high priest asked him, are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed One? Now he's asking him a truth sentence. And Jesus said, I am. And you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven. They were mad. They didn't appreciate that. Now, the reason I share this example is I can speak to a time in my life where somebody came against me with a lie, and they tried to spread that lie. And a friend came back and told me, this person's saying these things about you. You've got to go to the different people and tell them it's a lie. I said, I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna go behind them, clean up and try to, hey, did you hear a lie about me? I just want to call you and tell you it's not true. Hey, did you? Not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. It doesn't help. Now it's just your word against their, and I told I'm not doing that, because the truth always comes out. So I'm not going to try to just go behind that person, clean it up, to clean up his lie that he's telling. I'm not doing it. Not going to do it. Time will tell. Truth will come out. They'll see the truth. I don't have to do that. I don't have to do that. And we have a godly example of, you don't have to do that. Somebody's hurling lies at you. Once you start trying, yeah, no, I didn't. Yes, you didn't. No, seriously. And there's some proverbs on that too. You don't want to go there. You don't want to go there. If they come to, when they ask them the true question, is it true that you are the King of the Jews? Yes, it is. When Nathan said to David, you were this guy, you took this man's wife. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. When Jesus said to the Samaritan, whatever, the woman, you've had 5 husbands and the guy you're with right now, he ain't it. You're a prophet. Got that right. You're right. It's a whole bunch of them. It's a lot. She put it, yep. Clearly you're a prophet. The last example I want to give is in 1 Samuel. 1 Samuel 15. The difference. Here's what it looks like when that doesn't happen. This is Saul. I've taught on Saul and how he lost his kingdom because he was a nutcase, and it got stripped and given to David, the same David we were just talking about. And this is the chapter that I read from when that happened, 1 Samuel 15. And what happened? In summary, God had sent Saul to kill some people, this whole land, which means they must have been seriously evil. So he says, this is what the Lord Almighty says, I will punish the Amalekites. This is in chapter 15, verse 2. I will punish the Amalekites for what they did to Israel when they waylaid them as they came up from Egypt. Now, here's the directive. Now go, attack the Amalekites and totally destroy everything that belongs to them. Do not spare them. Put to death men, women, children, and infants, cattle and sheep, camels, and donkeys. He was like, burn it all. It all dies. Now, I know that seems harsh. I'm not even going to lie. It seems harsh, but I will tell you, when you really start studying scripture and you find out that there were times when they call them the giants of old, or Nephilim came down to the earth and decided they wanted to get with some of the people. There was some crossbreeding between some of the angels and some of the humans. There was some crossbreeding in a way that weren't necessarily the good angels coming down to do it. Some of the fallen, there was some stuff. So when I read, now he hasn't told me this specifically, but this is what I get from it. At the times that God is like, kill, burn it all, do not take, don't, because sometimes he tells them, kill this, save the women and children, you can take the plunder. He's real specific on this is okay to do and that's not. So when he says burn it all, get rid of it, don't leave anything, that's something happened in that place and it's bad seed. So yes, it hurts my heart to read about children, infants, but I can only think that's some stuff going on in there. 3 heads, whatnot. I get it. I wasn't there. I don't know. God didn't tell me specifically. That is my interpretation of scripture when I read that. Okay. Regardless, God was clear. Destroy it all. But Saul. In verse 9 of chapter 15 of 1 Samuel, it says, but Saul and the army spared Agag, who's the king of the Amalekites, and the best of the sheep and cattle, the fat calves and lambs, everything that was good. That's what they decided. Everything that's good, we're going to keep. These they were unwilling to destroy completely, but everything that was despised and weak, they totally destroyed. So they came in and they made the decision. That's good. That's kind of good. They came in, they were not obedient, but Saul, it says, but Saul and the army. God said, do this, but Saul did that. And he was the king. So, and immediately the word of the Lord came to Samuel. I am grieved that I have made Saul king because he has turned away from me and has not carried out my instructions. So in verse 12, Samuel's got to go talk to Saul. He goes to see him and it says, Saul has gone to Carmel. There he has set up a monument in his own honor. So basically Samuel calls him on this stuff. You did what you weren't supposed to do. God told you what to do. He told you to destroy everything. You didn't do what you were supposed to do. You know what he says? Look at verse 20. But I did obey the Lord, Saul said, but I did. I went on the mission the Lord assigned me. I completely destroyed the Amalekites and brought back Agag, their king. You completely, and those two don't go together. Also, the soldiers took sheep and cattle from the plunder, the best of what was devoted to God, in order to sacrifice them to the Lord your God. That's what had happened. I mean, I completely destroyed them, but I also saved the king and brought back. But you know what? Let me tell you why I brought it back. It was so I could give this. I was going to give a sacrifice. See, that's what had happened. I was going to sacrifice. That's all it was. And Samuel says, does the Lord delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as much as in obeying the voice of the Lord? To obey, this is where the sentence comes from. To obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed is better than the fat of the rams. So Saul went there again. Look at verse 24. I've sinned. He said, I've sinned. I've sinned. I violated the Lord's commands and your instructions. And look what he says next. I was afraid of the people, so I gave in to them. It wasn't my fault. I've sinned. I've sinned. I violated the Lord's commands because I was afraid of the people. So now I beg you, can you just forgive my sin and come back with me so that I may worship the Lord? How about that? Would you come back with me? We just put this behind us. First, deny. What? What are you talking about? Hey, the Lord gave me a command. I went in there. I completely destroyed the Amalekites. But I saved the gag and fatted the lambs, the lambs and the cat. But that was it. That's all I did. But I completely destroyed them. But I saved them but I saved. That's what happened. And when he's like, no, that's not what we asked you to do. Oh, well, see, what happened was I was afraid of the people. Okay, well, I'm pretty much through with you. And at that very moment, that's when his kingdom got stripped from him. That was it. It's like, kingdom is no longer yours. We're going to anoint somebody else as king. And Saul had a problem with that. So those are the scriptures. I know there was a lot of them tonight. There's a lot of storytelling because these stories, I mean, it's real. This is what we deal with. This is so real. This is real life. This is everyday. This is modern day. This is the stuff we deal with. I get innocent until proven guilty when you're really innocent. But when you use innocent until, and you put the emphasis on the word proven guilty, that's the problem. That's the problem. So innocent is the focus. I'm innocent. I'm innocent if you're innocent, but not I'm innocent until proven guilty, because really I'm guilty. I'm guilty is the answer. I'm guilty, but you have to consider me innocent until you can prove me guilty. There is no honor in that. No honor whatsoever. And that is all I have to say about that. And now I'm going to bring my beautiful sister on screen so we can talk about this together. Hello, my sister.
Hi, sister.
I'm salty over here. I'm sorry.
We are in an age of, you don't have any receipts. Pics or it didn't happen.
I know.
Yeah, I was thinking about Adam and that woman you gave me.
And she was like, that serpent that you put in the garden. They just punting, kicking it down the road. Yep.
Yeah, that lack of accountability, that lack of responsibility. It is heartbreaking. And you see it top to bottom.
Yep.
From people who should know better, who inspire. What did God say he inspired in his enemies? Right? People who inspire enemies of God to, what was the term?
Oh, I know.
Let
me say it right. I want to say it right. 2 Samuel 12. I want to say it right. He said, show utter contempt.
Yeah.
You have made the enemies of the Lord show utter contempt.
Yeah. You do. Right now, I feel like the church has a lot to think about.
Yep.
There are a lot of people going through a lot of contortions to keep from being wrong, unfortunately, even in their own minds, rather than say, okay, well, this clearly by the fruit of this, we made a wrong turn. But rather than say that, there are all the reasons.
Yep. I was reading in an article today where somebody said, because there are articles about the 3 presidents and how they had a message for President Biden about unity. And they're like, well, why didn't they do that? Why didn't that happen with President, number 45? And people were like, it did. They were all there because they said, why didn't they show up for him? Why didn't they? And everybody's like, they did show up for him. They did. And he even talked about how wonderful the transition was and how gracious President Obama was. They did. You just went and pointed. How come? I don't want to hear about unity. How come they didn't support? It's like, but they did. Everybody did. They peaceful transition. We don't have to agree, but this is how we handle it. But same thing, just nope. That's not what happened. That's not what happened. That's where that person went. No, it's not what happened. And everybody tried to say it is what happened. You just distorting facts.
Yeah, it's interesting that sometimes we are that adamant, not necessarily in our own defense, but in defense of someone else, again, so that we don't have to be wrong.
Right. Right.
Our
Right.
belief does not have to be wrong. Our actions don't have to be wrong. It's where we are. Sometimes I wonder if if we're not strong enough to handle being guilty. It takes so much strength to acknowledge being guilty.
I know, but Jean, even looking at these examples in the scripture, yes, one was King David, and he showed his strength from killing lions and doing this thing and Goliath and blah, blah, blah. But then you have the Samaritan woman. She wasn't strong.
Except,
Well, I mean,
right, it turns out she was. We were taught in Bible study when I was going to lay ministry classes that just sleeping with somebody made them your husband. So,
right.
right. So Jesus could
The
have been.
only reason that I dispute that is because he says, and the man you're with now is not your husband.
Right. Yes. In that case, he may mean it. Jesus could turn a phrase.
He could turn a phrase.
He could turn a phrase.
Turn a phrase.
So I can't ever tell if he's like, did you?
Right.
I know it's shots fired, right? I know it was a zinger. Right. I just don't know. Yeah. But it's still, I think you're right in saying that it used to be unthinkable to lie, for most people, to just lie. Those people were ostracized. They were the outlier. People who could just say, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. And now we've come to a place where it's almost standard.
Right. Right. But I will say the justice system has been sliding into that that didn't just come these last 4 years. That's been that whole because of lawyers, which is why they have the reputation they do. Defense lawyers have a horrible reputation because it's all about proven guilty. And they put the emphasis on proven. And that.
And they have to. They do have to. The legal system to me is a little bit different because lawyers, it's been about winning and losing for so long. Even with prosecutors, do you have to get the person who really did it, or do you just have to close the case?
Right. Can you prove somebody did it? Doesn't have to be the person who did it. Prove somebody did it.
And with defense lawyers, and this is this is one of those things where when OJ got off, our dad did not believe he was innocent. He was just amazed and happy to have lived long enough to see that if you had enough money, if you had enough money, you could get the same level of, no, you're going to have to prove it first, that white people were able to get. So to me, the justice system is in a whole different category of, it's not about justice.
I know, but it's really not. Really not. In the eyes of God, it's really not.
Of course it's not. But to me, where the reality, where we get down to it, is in that relationship with God. In that relationship with God, what are you copping to there? In your relationship with yourself, when you look in the mirror, what are you recognizing there? And that's why I don't think we're strong enough anymore to recognize who we are, what we've become in a lot of ways. I've seen people do the most horrible things and have no self-recognition that they are that they've done anything bad. That
I know. I remember watching, I want to say it was an episode of Criminal Minds, and they said something like, even the most heinous murderers are heroes in their own story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you will twist yourself up into a pretzel making yourself a hero. And then you see people who commit suicide after they do something awful, and you think, did the scales fall from your eyes? Were
I
you
believe
just
that happens.
presented
Yeah.
with irrefutable proof of doing or being something terrible and you could not handle it? I hope that we become stronger, more honorable people than we are right now.
Yeah.
It feels like we are not very honorable.
We're not right now. I'm writing a whole situation right now. I'm drafting something about who we need to be, as it relates to, Democrats, Republicans, and all of that, and the way that we demonize we can't keep doing that. We can't go on like that and call ourselves decent. Not on either side. We cannot do it. We
And our country
cannot.
won't survive it. It
It
won't
won't.
survive it.
It won't.
The
It won't.
whole premise of democracy is that we have different ideas. Your side gets in, you push your ideas forward. My side gets in, we push our idea. Hopefully we meet somewhere in the middle for something that maybe nobody loves, but we can both live with. Once it becomes
Demonizing.
fellow Americans are the devil,
Right.
we have
Right.
we can't ever
Yeah.
the democracy won't survive
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. No, I know. But this mindset of, when people know they're wrong, I mean, yes, there are times when people are deluded and they don't think what they've done is wrong. But there are times when they know what they did, they know who they are, they know what they've done. But their whole thing is, wasn't me. I didn't do it. Unless you can prove it.
Yeah. There was a pastor on Facebook, and it was when somebody had modified a video of Nancy Pelosi to make her look like she was drunk. And somebody posted it, and the comments underneath it were an assortment of, I'm Democrat, I'm a Republican, so this is a terrible thing, or this is, and one of the comments came from a pastor, and his comment, I think, was, MAGA 2020 baby, or MAGA 20, whatever it was that. And I just clicked on for whatever reason, I clicked on his profile to see who he was, and I realized he was a pastor, and I just asked him, in all honesty, help me understand. Oh, he made a comment about Democrats being pro-abortion, and so this was, so MAGA 2020 or whatever. And I asked him, help me understand what's happening here, because is abortion the absolute worst sin that can happen in your mind? Does it give license then for anything in response? All the gloves are off. I said, because someone modified a video of a woman to make her look drunk when she wasn't. And there was a time where decent people would agree, we don't agree on this abortion thing, but this is a bad thing. This is dirty pool. This is unacceptable. So help me understand, is there nothing wrong except abortion? Is everything else okay?
Did he respond?
He didn't respond. He could not pull it together to respond, but under my question, somebody with the same last name as his, a woman with the same last name, said, "Thank you, Gina."
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you, Gina.
So he had to, I hope he thought about himself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're to that point where we've decided that there's a thing, whatever that thing is, that makes it okay for us to be monsters to each other.
Yeah, it's not okay. It's just not okay. It's just not okay. It's just not. So anyway, yeah, these scriptures, I've thought about them a lot. I've often thought about the David and Bathsheba one, but I also, I wrote a play based on the Samaritan woman. I have a play called A Divine Appointment about the Samaritan woman. And I'm always struck by the fact that he literally read her, and she didn't just, go skulking away or slap him Or, like there were a whole bunch of, not that, women couldn't do that probably in those days, but you know what I mean? It could have been a whole different situation. And you see throughout the Bible, like you said, with Adam, it was, that woman, that serpent, like, and you can see different accounts of how did they handle it? When called on their stuff, how did they handle it?
And that's when God decides, okay, well, we're just going to take your, not because you did the thing, because David did the thing.
David did the thing.
But when you're not even strong enough to come correct with me, yeah, we're not.
I can see you. Like, it's one thing to lie to your person.
So busted. Yes.
Right? Like, for real?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you for joining me tonight on Bible study.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to turn off Facebook. Facebook, thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it. Please feel free to leave comments below. I know tonight was a little longer than normal. Normally about 15, 20 minutes, and tonight was 45, but it was worth it because the conversation was good. I love talking to my sister. So, see you next week.